dedicated to each and every one of you who appreciate a great glass of wine. You know what I mean?
It's Monday. Let's raise a glass to the beginning of another week. It's time to unscrew, uncork, or saber a bottle. And let's begin exploring the wine glass. Today, we return to Winephabet Street, where the letter of the day is L, and it stands for Lagrein. The Italian grape variety meant that it was morning drinking for me. We had the honor of having Karoline Walch of Elena Walch Winery in Alto Aldige, Italy. During the interview, we learned the history of the village, the grape variety, and some exciting fun facts. This is definitely one you're not going to want to miss. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Did you know you can do it right now? Yeah, while you're listening. New ratings and reviews are how the algorithms decide which podcast they recommend to others. And if you love the podcast, other wine lovers will too. Don't forget to add your email address to the website to keep up on all things exploring the wine glass. Slancha. Hey everybody, I'm Lori Budd, a UC Davis winemaking program, Spanish wine scholar, sommelier service, champagne and Côte d'Aron specialist, and a WSET Level 2 graduate. You can find Exploring the Wine Glass on all the socials, as well as your favorite podcast catchers. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to swipe, subscribe, rate, and review. Stay in the know about all things wine by visiting my website, exploringthewineglass.com. I promise I'll never tell you what to drink, but I'll always share what's in my glass. Hey, everybody. Welcome. So we are back to Winephabet Street. We are up to the letter L, and we are talking Lagrein, and I am stoked because we are talking Lagrein from Italy. Well, actually, I'd be happier if I was in Italy while we were talking about this. But we have a special guest, Karoline Walch from Elena Winery. And there it is. And we are talking Lagrein today. So it is going to be a fantastic conversation. So first, welcome, Karoline. How are we doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking time for being with us. And we can't wait to get into the history of the winery and this grape variety. But before we get to that, those of you who do not know me, I am your co-host, Lori. I am WSET Level 2. I am a Spanish wine scholar. I am a champagne specialist and Côte d'Aron specialist. And I am part owner with my husband of Dracaena Wines in Paso Robles. So winemaker on top of that. And I don't know what else. But I'm going to pass you off to my co-host, Debbie. So go ahead. Who's going to forget half the stuff she does too.
Yeah. I am Debbie Giaquindo. And first I want to thank Karoline for showing us how to change the backgrounds here.
Yes.
On the computer. It could have been there for the whole time, or maybe it's new, but I'm sitting amongst Hudson Valley Cap Franc. And I'm Debbie Giaquindo, the Hudson Valley Wine Goddess. I'm a certified specialist of wine, a wine location specialist in port and champagne, and a wine sherry location specialist. I'm the author of a book called Tapping the Hudson Valley and Weekend Itineraries, visiting the Hudson Valley area. I am chairperson for the Hudson Valley Wine Competition, and I am a partner in a restaurant in North Wildwood called Trio North Wildwood with my husband and chef Gus Zimmerman, and we're getting ready for our busy season. 3 months of being busy. I'll just leave it at that. Karoline.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I feel almost embarrassed because I don't have so many specialist titles as you have.
You have a winery. What are you doing?
So I'm a wine producer. My name is Karoline Walch, and I'm the 5th generation of our family estate, Elena Walch. We're in Alto Aldige, so in the very north of Italy, and I'm very excited to be talking to you today and introducing you to our estate, to our vineyards, to our winemaking philosophy, and obviously to the variety Lagrein.
Well, thank you so much. Excellent. And we do have, Michael has found his way to the episode, so that is good. And we are going to hit up Elmo right now. So let's.
There we go.
All right.
All right.
Excellent.
Karoline, tell us a little bit about the whole history of Elena Walch Winery.
Yeah, before.
I know it's 5th generation.
Yeah,
tell us all about it.
Yeah, we've been making wine for a long time, and you can see it in my background. This is one of our major vineyards, the Vigna Castellats, a very unique vineyard, and maybe I'll be talking about it later. But you'll see this old church also in the background. So it's a medieval town. We're in Tramine, which is actually also the birthplace of another grape variety, Gewürztraminer. And so the region is really known for winemaking. So we have been making wine since the Roman times and even earlier, probably. And do you all know where Alto Aldige is? Probably I should first start. Right? I mean,
Yep.
Alto Aldige, for those who don't know, it's in the very, very north of Italy, right? So we're bordering to Austria and Switzerland, right at the foothills of the Dolomites. And some of you might know the Dolomites, which are these huge mountains. You can see them actually in my background here. These snow-capped mountains, kind of the Dolomites, really world famous for skiing, for hiking, for big tourist destinations, for sure. Whoever loves nature, that's definitely a place to go. And so we are right there. We're in the middle of the Alps, but Alto Aldige is very unique as we're surrounded by the Alps, but at the same time, we're open to the south for the Mediterranean climate to come in. Hence, it's warm during the day, because during the day it heats up like in a basin, again, because we're surrounded by the Dolomites. But at night, we have those cold diurnal shifts, so the cold winds that come down from the mountains, and hence we have huge temperature fluctuations between day and night, which is a great place, hence, for growing vines. And history-wise, and I'm not going to give you a whole history lesson here, but something that you definitely should know about Alto Aldige is that, I mean, it's a small region, right? We're contributing less to 1% to the total Italian wine production, so tiny region. And the region, just by looking at the church, probably you don't think you're in Italy, right? Architecture-wise, it looks very Austrian. And the reason is that Alto Aldige used to be part of Austria up until World War I, and then the borders changed. Right.
Oh.
So history-wise, it's very unique, and that's why probably when looking at me, I don't look very Italian, probably, and I don't have an Italian accent, maybe. And the reason is that because of that, my first language is actually German and not Italian, right? So I always keep saying, yeah, we wear different hats at different occasions. So sometimes we kind of play the German card, and sometimes more the Italian card, right? So the region used to be part of Austria up until World War I. Then the borders changed, and obviously since then we have been part of Italy, and it's a beautiful part of Italy, but it is quite unique and distinct to the other regions that you'll find in Italy, and hence history-wise we have a very rich history, and culture-wise it's very interesting because you have those. It's really like a melting pot between these Austrian and the Italian cultures, and I always say I feel like we've picked the best things from both cultures. Sometimes we're a little bit more Italian when it comes to pleasure and lifestyle and the way we enjoy life and eat and drink, but then we're very Germanic when it comes to working and being on time. And so it's this neat and small little pocket in Italy that not all of you probably have heard of. Exactly.
That's a good trivia question, because I never knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, today we talk Lagrein, and Lagrein is a German name, right? It's a German name. It's not the way it's spelled. So that's quite unique. That's something you should definitely know when you talk about Alto Aldige and when you talk about Alto Aldige wine. But so it's a very historic winemaking region, and because of our unique climate, we really can produce fantastic wines, both red and whites. Back in the days, it was mainly red wines. Nowadays, it has shifted. So there are about almost 40% red wines, but the majority nowadays is whites, actually.
Oh, wow.
And it's cool.
And how about the majority of what you produce? Do you produce?
For us, it's half, pretty much. Half red and half white. Yes.
Okay.
And yes, that's a little bit about the region. And then our estate is also one of the most historic estates in the region. The winery was actually founded in 1869, so 5 generations ago, right in this town of Tramine, where the picture that you can see in my background. And the winery has been there ever since. It has been in the Walch family, so in my family ever since. But then it all changed with my mother, Elena, who married into this family. Now, she was actually an architect. And she was born and raised in the big city of Milan, about 3 hours south of where we are. And marriage then took her to this small little village of Tramin. And I mean, she soon realized that there was nothing else but vineyards surrounding her. And she has always had this love and passion for wine. And I mean, we're talking about the 80s when not only Alto Aldige, but really all of Italy and probably most of the regions in the world were mainly focusing on quantity rather than on quality, right? So she never really understood why the family already at the time, you know, we're owning some of the most unique vineyards, like the Vigna Castellas that you see in my background, a very steep, difficult vineyard to work, and would make one variety, you know, they would just be making a varietal Lagrein, a varietal Gewürztraminer, a varietal Pinot Grigio, whatsoever, without naming the vineyard, the site where it's coming from, right? And obviously, I mean, the quality you get from vineyards like the one that you see in my picture is so different than from the Valley Floor, for example, right? So she was the one in the early 80s that said, hey, we're such a small region, we need to compete on quality. We're way too small to compete on quantity, right? So she was the one also to my dad telling, hey, we need to change, we need to vinify all these parcels separate, we need to focus on the highest quality possible. So she introduced new techniques in the vineyards and also in the winemaking. And I mean, whoever knows my mom knows that she has a very strong head. And at some point, she told my dad, hey, if I have all these ideas, I want my name on the bottle. So 1988 it was that she had her first wine labeled as Elena Walch. And and then even though in the beginning, she always thought this would remain a small side project to the actual winery of my dad, her project really soon took off, and she started buying more and more vineyards and starting producing more and more varieties and wines, and always with the aim of showing the world the potential of the different sites that we have in Alto Aldige. So that's a little bit our background.
That's awesome. And more power to her, man. That is awesome.
Right?
So just completely not off topic, sidebar question. How steep is that vineyard? Is that considered heroic?
This is yes. So this is 63% in steepness. So super steep. Obviously, everything we do there. I mean, I don't know if you can see it on picture. It's terraced, right? Yes. It has to be, otherwise it will just slide off.
It will all be down at the church.
Totally, totally. And it's really like a pyramid sitting above this town of Tramin. And the unique thing of this vineyard is that it's the only hill in the region completely south-facing, right? Because generally the vineyards follow the valley, and the valley runs north-south. And you have the vineyards facing southeast or southwest. Whereas this is a vineyard, it's really like a pyramid, like a mountain itself, turned around, so it gets the sun all day long. It's then influenced by two very strong winds. One is a very dry wind that comes from Lake Garda, which obviously is great for, it's annoying if you work the vineyard because the wind is extremely strong, but it's great for the grapes because it's a very dry wind. And then we have those cold falling winds from the high mountains close by. So we have huge temperature fluctuations there. And so we call it a very extreme vineyard for the exposure, for the steepness, and for the wind sweat that we have, for sure. And we actually produce on this side, we produce a Gewürztraminer, a dry Gewürztraminer, and a Merlot.
Oh, okay. What is your number one white variety?
It's actually Gewürztraminer and Pinot Grigio. So those are pretty much equal. Yes. So we're in the town of Tramin, which we consider and believe is the birthplace of the variety of Gewürztraminer, and Gewürztraminer referring to the spicy grape of the town of Tramin, and hence, it has been historically one of our most planted grape varieties. It's in the region we mainly produce, I should say, dry Gewürztraminers. So you get really the aromatics on the nose, but then it finishes completely dry. So it's a fantastic wine also for food pairing wise. It's exceptional. And obviously Pinot Grigio is a key variety for us. I mean, we feel like in our area in the Alps, we really have great climate to be producing high-end Pinot Grigio. I know nowadays Pinot Grigio is planted, unfortunately, everywhere, almost everywhere. But we feel like in Alto Aldige we have the right climate to be growing really a high-end grape variety, and it is a noble grape variety, as the Alsatians remind us. And depending on where you plant it, obviously, and how you treat it, and we love Pinot Grigio, and it really shows very well in our region. Great minerality, deepness, and structure. Yeah.
So actually, I just put that together: Gewürztraminer and then Tramin.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
I just put that together. Yeah.
I'm a little
It's
slow
the
on the
grape
uptake.
that we, as every child loves Gewürztraminer in our town, and that's the first grape variety that the child gets to know because it has this kind of pinkish hue, right? The pinkish skin slightly, and it tastes amazing when you taste it. So every child loves Gewürztraminer as a grape.
Awesome. You know, I have to share a little fun fact or whatever, which I don't know if it really matters. But when my husband and I went to Italy, I don't know how many years ago it was now, six years ago, we landed and we went right into Rome and we dropped our stuff off at the hotel, and then we just walked. And we walked up this hill and there was a wine bar there. We're like, oh, I guess this is a good place to start our vacation. And we went in and we had your Pinot Grigio
Oh, fantastic.
as our first wine into our first time to Italy vacation.
Oh, beautiful. I
And
hope you enjoyed it.
Nice.
We did. It was a perfect way to start off our vacation. It was an anniversary trip for us, and it was a perfect way to start it off. So that was how I was, and we honestly at that point had never heard of the winery, you know, and we just picked it because we picked it. I don't know, and we loved it. And then now I see you, you know. Now I see you everywhere, you know.
Now you know us and now you see us, right?
Yes, yeah, and we drink you. Yes. Absolutely. And it does. It reminds us every time we pop one. It reminds us of that trip.
Now,
So,
did you go up to Alto Aldige? No, you didn't make it up
We
north.
did not.
You did.
No,
Okay. Next time.
we did not. Yes, my husband was very regimented. We did Rome for a couple of days, Venice, and then Florence.
Oh,
And
beautiful. Well,
now
you
I'm
picked
like,
some
we gotta go back.
beautiful-
We gotta go
Yeah,
back.
you picked some beautiful cities. Now you have to come back for a more relaxed vacation because in the mountains.
Yes. All right. So one of the things, and it kind of Pinot Grigio-esque, as you were saying, can be grown anywhere. Should it be grown everywhere
Exactly.
is a different story.
That makes a difference.
Right?
Yes.
Right. But at Elena Walch, we see and read a lot about terroir, and that some people are true believers in it, other people aren't. But you guys are very much believers in it. So tell us what that term means to you and why.
Yeah, my mom really started that in the early 80s, right? When she said, hey, you know, we have this, for example, Vigna Castellats, this unique side. This obviously makes a different wine that the Gewürztraminer comes from the valley floor. And another side that we have is the Castelriedberg vineyard, which is nowadays considered the largest single vineyard in Alto Adige, with just 20 hectares just in one piece, which for the region is really unique. And she said, hey, if we have these unique sites, we need to make something different. We need to make sure that people understand this wine is different because it comes from this place, right? So that was her belief back in the days, and she started producing then all these single vineyard wines, right? Starting from Castellats and from Castelriedberg, which are our two major vineyards. And later on, when my sister and myself joined, actually I didn't finish the story. So my sister and myself, we actually grew up on the winery. Then we both traveled around the world, had our own experiences, studied abroad, but both decided at some point to come back. And so we both actually came back in 2013. And it was actually quite interesting because we both grew up on the winery, but I knew from day one that I wanted to do exactly what my mom or my parents were doing at the time. So I studied and kind of, I really knew it right away that my bedroom was just above the barrel hole, so I wanted to come back. My sister, she did not at the time, and she was, she said, I would do anything but what my parents did, you know, kind of this teenager thing. And then she studied everything else but wine at the time. And then actually we later only found out that she was actually secretly taking wine courses. And at some point decided to come to join the family herself. So we both found ourselves back in Tremaine, in this small town, in 2013. And she then studied also in Burgundy and in Bordeaux wine. And hang on, I lost you. Are you still there? Okay, sorry,
Yes, we're still
my
here.
screen went black. Sorry. And So she came kind of had more the old world schooling in wine. I actually studied in Australia at the time and kind of had more kind of the new world approach. So hence we found ourselves in this very historic winery, and with the old and the new world kind of coming together. And it was so much fun because we both, studied in different parts of the world and then came in with new ideas, and then together found out what we thought would be the best for our winery. And what my mom then, introduced many years ago, which was this thinking of terroir, this parcel vinification of our different sites, is something that we then continued, and probably in a more strict way even, that we also started using. We were actually one of the first in the region of Alto Aldige to be using this relatively new denomination or classification, I should say, of vigna, meaning vineyard. And if you put that on your label, it's like an MGA. You have to guarantee that the wine comes only and exclusively from one single site. And so what my mom introduced many, many years ago and was making wines only of these sites, right? And when the wine was gone, and we didn't have anything to sell for so many months. She always thought that it's important to have a wine that speaks for its location, right? And hence we introduced that in 2015, then when the new denomination became available for the region of Alto Aldige, this new classification, I should say, and so this is something she introduced back in the days, and we continued and will continue also in the future to really produce wines that really reflect the parcel, the region, and where it's coming from.
And Lynn has put in the chat that loves your Castel Ringberg Lagrein.
Yes, exactly. So we actually produce two different Lagreins. We have the Lagrein Selezione, which is
Lagrein.
See, we go back to the German pronunciation, right? The Italians would say Lagrein because that's how it's spelled, but it's actually Lagrein, and it's a Germanic name. Goes back to And so there are two different types. We have the Lagrein Selezione, which is a selection of several smaller vineyards kind of coming together. And then we have the Lagrein Vigna Castel Ringberg, and that's our single vineyard Lagrein, which is a Reserva style, which is then matured in French oak for about 18 months, bottle aged prior to being released, right? Whereas the Lagrein Selezione is, to me, a great expression of the variety itself. So it's kind of more fresher and more approachable style than the Lagrein Reserva is.
So, and that's what I have?
You have the Lagrein Selezione, which is a selection of several smaller vineyards coming together.
Okay. And these smaller vineyards, are they located in different areas?
They're very close by. So I should say, we're in Tramin, the town that you see here. And Lagrein comes from vineyards in the town of Tramin, also Caldaro, which is a beautiful area for growing Lagrein in the lower parts. So those two parts, so that's not even 10 minutes away from each other. And Lagrein is this very unique variety that is an indigenous grape variety to the region of Alto Aldige, right? It's really only being found there. And it's it has it's a very dark color, and you'll see that in the wine, right? It has a very, very dark color, grippy tannins. Interestingly, it also has a good acidity. And it's interesting because we don't exactly know where the variety comes from. I mean, there has been we found like documentation that goes back to something like the 14th century where they were talking about this variety Lagrein. So we don't exactly know where the variety actually comes from. We know it's the closest related to Teroldego, which is in the nearby Trentino area. And then it goes back to Marzemino, and then it goes back at some point. It must have been kind of a cross also with Syrah, even with Pinot Noir, and some even say Merlot. So we don't really know how it kind of came together. But somehow Syrah is in there, somehow Pinot Noir. And I think kind of you feel that in the wine, especially when it's young, right? You get kind of these spicy notes also. And right? And so it has been planted in Alto Aldige for, as I said, since the 14th century, and so a long tradition. And actually back in the days, and I'm going back to the topic of the color, it was mainly a grape that was used for blending, right? Because of the color and the tannin structure, this wine was blended with another indigenous grape variety that is called Schiava, right? And Schiava is the complete opposite to Lagrein. Schiava is light, very light in color, very fresh, very easy drinking, very
Grenache-esque. Grenache?
Grenache-like. Exactly. Very similar in that side. So obviously at the time, they were using just a little bit of Lagrein to added a drop of Lagrein to the Schiava, and all of a sudden your Schiava was becoming kind of a Reserva, not a Reserva style, but kind of becoming more rich, more important, and you could sell it off for more, right? So this was the trick, like using a little bit of Lagrein to make your kind of Schiava more important. And only then, really, we found out that Lagrein actually needed a special microclimate to really be expressing itself well. And so we actually started also on our estate, we started looking at the plantations we already had and said, where does it actually thrive well? And we realized that Lagrein needs to vinify it separately until the end and bottle it as a Lagrein, right? And hence we found out that Lagrein needs a lot of sun to really ripen fully, right? You needed to do a lot of green harvesting to make sure that this little bunch that remains on the vine really gets all the sunlight needed to ripen fully. And hence we started planting it only in the hottest and the warmest spots. Not surprisingly, for example, Caldara is a beautiful area. It grows very well on porphyric soils in and around the town of Bolzano, which is a very warm area. And we do a lot of green harvesting to make sure the little bunch, exactly as I said, really ripens fully, right? And you don't have those green harsh notes or tannins that can be very astringent if not planted in the right way. And hence, only later on then we really vinified it separately up until the very end. And it's now a fantastic grape variety. It's one of our most planted grape varieties in regards to the red varieties.
So on your website, it says you're a true believer in sustainability.
Yeah.
And it's not just a buzzword.
No.
And I know that's very important to you.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah. I mean, I always say, it's a family winery. We have been here for 5 generations. And obviously for me, if I'm lucky today to be owning these vineyards that are, that have a value that is probably not. And it's obviously that whatever I do today in my vineyards is really for the next generation. I want to keep everything alive as much as possible. And hence, working sustainably for us is the basic of what we do. And we feel like sustainability is not something that you can ever achieve and say, okay, I'm sustainable now, tick it off and next page. But it's a constant evolution and process. And hence, we've applied already many things and will add new projects really every year. Actually, just today, looking out of my window, we're just finishing our second, I should say, solar panels roof. So nowadays we can actually cover 60% of the of our electricity is all done with solar panels, right? So photovoltaic, yes. And obviously sustainability is something that we apply in the vineyards, in the production, and also in the sales side to it, right? In the vineyards, obviously, it's there's so many things that we can and we do already. For example, planting all these sorts of cereals, right, to increase mineralization, for nitrogen levels. What we want is really create a biodiversity in both flora and fauna, and hence with this all leguminous. How do you say leguminosis? Cereals, kind of legumes. Sorry, right? Legumes. Legumes. These then are not being cut off at the end of the vintage, but kind of rolled down so that we keep the soil moisture and have a natural habitat, right? We, for example, have weather monitoring systems in all of our vineyards to make sure that really we only intervene when it's really necessary, because these weather monitoring systems tell us in every single moment, not only the humidity or the temperature or the winds, but also the humidity underground, the 2 levels, also how wet your leaf is, because obviously if you go in and do any treatments and your leaf is completely wet, it doesn't really help much. And hence, with the aim always to intervene as little as possible. And this is really also the belief that we then have that we continue and follow also in the cellar, that if you have very healthy grapes, then you don't have to do much else in the cellar, right? And for example, we've introduced a new fermentation cellar in 2015 only that is completely gravity fed, and hence
awesome.
Yeah. So and what we've realized is actually by using this very old method, basically. I mean, it looks super technological and new, this new fermentation cellar, but in the end, we really go back to old and normal principles, right? Gravity fed winery that the wine is so much cleaner. Like we don't have to do any pump overs. I mean, after fermentation, the wines go in barrique and they stay there we don't touch them for almost 18 months, right? Whereas prior to that, you had to work the barrels much more often, right? And hence, it's kind of these little things that we do to and we know that, if it all obviously starts in the vineyards and the quality you make there, but then you continue also in the cellar to intervene as little as possible with those little things that help, right? And we do our own compost for the vineyards, for example, right? So we know exactly, after composting needs also a lot of space, as you know, right? So you need a lot of space to be able to make your own compost, and that takes about a year, and only then you kind of bring it out in the vineyards, right? So it's all these little steps that we though think in the end make a difference in what you have in your glass, because we know exactly what goes in there, right? So by making it ourselves, the compost. And we cut, for example, with the Simonite and Serge, how do you say if you cut your grapes, your
Harvest?
Yeah.
Pruning?
No, the pruning,
drop?
sorry, yes. Pruning, okay. Right? According to Simonite and Serge, who also says, again, don't cut your old wood, and again, work as gently as possible to keep your whole trunk basically alive, right? And so a lot of things that we do, it starts in the vineyards, continues in the cellar, where we have, for example, a water management system that water is being reused for cleaning. And also, as I just said, 60% now is done with solar panels. We use actually lighter glass. We use now 10% lighter glass for all of our, for example, Selezione wines, which are wines that travel around the world. And obviously, the lighter you can produce, the better it is. And that makes a huge difference. They say something like 70% of the CO2 footprint is really in winemaking goes back to packaging, right? So if you can reduce your bottle weight by 10%, that does make a difference. So it's all these little things that we believe make a difference then in the final wine that you get. So for us, sustainability is really a core identity and is really at our hearts. And as I said, if I'm lucky today to be owning these unique vineyards, it's I have to, and I have to work it sustainably too. To be giving it to the next generation, and also considering how expensive land is. There's almost no vineyard available for sale or for expansion. Hence, the vineyard prices are extremely high. Wow. So it takes it's like €1 million for 1 hectare, which is prices like in Champagne, right? If we don't produce Champagne, we don't get those prices like in Champagne, right? So obviously, it's only the second and the third generation that in the end finally make a profit out of this super expensive vineyard. But then we still buy if we can, because it's something that our duty for the next generation, right? So if my ancestors have done it, that's my part for the future generations to come. And hence, obviously, it's kind of the circle that I treat my vineyards well, because it's really only the next who really benefit from it.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Dracaena Wines loves to give back. There are so many fur babies that deserve to find their forever home. We would love to be able to help as many as possible. If you are part of a nonprofit organization or know of a nonprofit organization that would like to hold a fundraiser, please contact us at contact@dracaenawines.com or visit our website, dracaenawines.com, to fill out the form. How does the fundraiser work? It is super simple and costs your group absolutely nothing. Together, we will choose a month that your group will be sponsored. During the month, you promote the fundraiser just like any other event you'd hold. At the end of the month, we will donate 20% of the sales to your organization. The donations will be made in the name of each individual who purchased the wine, so that you know exactly who helped the animals. Our goal is to raise as much funds as we possibly can and to help as many animals as possible. So please help us help as many fur babies as we possibly can.
Perfect.
Right. They're like your kids. You got to nurture them.
It is.
They've got to grow
exactly.
so that you can hand them off to your kids.
Right.
Exactly. And as a vineyard, as a producer, it takes time. You have to be very patient,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because you buy a new vineyard today, you start planting it, and by the time it really delivers you the grapes that, of a certain quality, you have to wait 10, 15, or even longer, right? Years.
Right. And also getting to know that particular site and
exactly.
the pros and what it needs.
Exactly. To understand what style can I actually make, right? You probably have in mind a certain wine, but can it can those grapes get there? I mean, is it really
Right.
what I picture it, right?
And if not, what's plan B? What can I do with them?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So-
you're located in.
Oh, I'm sorry. We just have two questions
Yes.
that have been there for a while. So the first one is from Todd, and he would like to know, how would someone from the U.S. travel to Tramin? Do you go through Venice, Verona, Austria? What's the best way?
closest? So the closest international airports would be Milan to the south, Milan, Venice, both to the southeast and southwest, or Munich, right? And then it's always Munich in Germany. So it's always about either 3 hours. You travel 3 hours south if you land in Munich, or you go 3 hours north when you go from either Venice or Milan. And then you definitely don't need a car. So I suggest, fly into one of these major hubs and then don't take a car, because our capital city in Alto Aldige is called Bolzano, and it's a gorgeous, beautiful city to visit. But once you've visited the city, and it's a small city, you only need a few hours there. You need your car to really travel around, to see the vineyards, to see wineries. But then also, if you definitely should go up in the mountains, because they're beautiful. And so you need a car there, and to travel around and visit all the different small towns that we have here, because there are very, very, very many small towns.
Okay. And then the other question is from JVB. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Sorry. Actually, he was answering. He was talking about. He was saying that he flew into Milan and then took the train to Bolzano.
Yes, and then
Murano
train, yes,
Murano.
That works if you stay.
And then he based his trip in Alto Aldige, at Innsbruck, Austria, and Marco Polo Airport.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
True.
So
No, that's all. But then probably I sometimes use the Innsbruck airport, which is great. It's a small airport, but then you have to do a connection, right? You fly either to Frankfurt or to Vienna, and then your overseas flight. So if you want to go direct, you'd have to go into Munich or Milan or Venice. But otherwise you can use some of the smaller airports like Verona or Innsbruck that are about an hour and a half either south or north. But then you have to do change flights.
And Jim says it is definitely worth the trip to go.
Oh, beautiful. I love hearing that. Thank you.
So sorry, Deb, go ahead.
No, it kind of ties in to what my next question was. Beside the wine, what else is there to do? We've covered how to get there and hiking.
So it's definitely a place for nature lovers, right? If you look for a big city with a lot of museums, then it's maybe not the place to visit. But if you're an outdoor person and you want to enjoy great weather, so actually our marketing agency says of Alto Aldige, we have over 300 days of sunshine, which is not bad, right? It's beautiful
Very
weather.
nice.
Yeah, and it's in summertime. It's interesting also for winemaking. Actually, we're one of the hottest summertime places in all of Italy. But the nights are make the difference, right? It gets hot during the day, but it's cold at night. So a lot of people, I get it a lot, that they say, "Hey, we thought we would be so far north so that it would be so cold, but in the end, it's so warm in summertime," and it's true. But yeah, what else is there to visit? Definitely visit wineries. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful vineyard area for sure. And most of them are in and around the town of Bolzano, Lake Caldara, Trami, kind of where we are basically located. And then very important and very famous in winter, if you come in winter, for skiing. And then for hiking in summer, or if you want to bike, beautiful bike roads and in the mountains, the Dolomites, like Val Gardena, which is beautiful for hiking or for skiing in the winter. And you have these very high mountains, and they're just very unique, very, very unique. And we have some small lakes, but it's definitely a place for people who love to be outside. And culinary-wise, it's very, very unique because, again, going back to what I said in the very beginning about the two cultures, right, the German and Italian influence, that you'll see that also in the cuisine, and hence you'll have amazing food because you can choose between those very traditional restaurants. If you go especially higher up on the mountains, they will cook you very Austrian-like food, right? Very traditional. But then at the same time, you have this very Italian cuisine and influence, and very many high-end restaurants, they tend to blend these two things together, and it kind of really exceptional food. So I believe we have per capita, we have the most Michelin star restaurants in all of Italy. Yeah, so that's not bad, right? We also even had a 3 Michelin star restaurant, but unfortunately he just closed. But because the huge hotel got purchased by another huge hotel anyway, so they decided to redo it. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But yes, so it's a very, very high-end place for people who kind of want to enjoy good wine and good food. It's definitely a place to go.
Awesome. All right, so let's focus in a little bit on the Lagrein. So how did you start producing this grape? Was it on the vineyard and that you had purchased, how much of production is it for you?
Yeah, so Lagrein we have been, being a very historic, we're one of the oldest wine growing families in the area. So we have been making Lagrein really literally ever since. But it has always been, as I said, the minority. The major grape was Schiava Farnacci in German. And only later, as I said, my mom then said, hey, we need to vinify it separately. We need to, make a varietal Lagrein. And then only then we started realizing what Lagrein really needs to become a varietal wine, right? And as I said in the beginning, my mom changed a lot of things in the vineyards and also in the winemaking. And she was really a pioneer in the high quality revolution that our region went through. And this also with Lagrein, right? And doing a lot of green harvesting. So it really only have the small bunch on the vine. It's actually, my mom tells me this story that one day she was talking to this very old lady, and this was in the beginning, right, when she started doing so. And this lady said, woman, you're not doing good things here. And my mom said, why? And she said, as I was, and this was a lady, she was maybe 90 years old. And she said, when I was a child, during harvest, we kids had to be the last in a row during harvest. And we had to whistle and sing to prove that we were not eating one single berry. And now you're cutting down on the ground. Right? So she changed a lot of things. And a lot of the people at the time did not like this. But certainly with Lagrein, it was necessary to start making it as a varietal Lagrein, right? Because otherwise you'll have these very astringent and tannic notes that no matter how much oak or no matter what you do in the cellar, you just never get rid of it, kind of these green notes. So definitely this green harvesting helps a lot. So Lagrein needs a lot of sun to really ripen fully.
So you do a lot of leaf pulling so that
yes, leaf pulling is important. Yes, exactly. Sun exposure is very important. Also, for example, we planted one of our major vineyards of Lagrein is kind of going towards the lake, where we have the lake that releases some heat also at nighttime, and hence we have less temperature fluctuations than, for example, on the Castellaz hill that you see behind me. So definitely the warmest spots in Alto Aldige go for Lagrein.
It has a spice note to it that I keep smelling because I'm trying to figure out exactly what spice it is.
Kind of the white pepper, maybe the white pepper thing.
But it's I literally keep sticking my nose in it because it is a beautiful smell. And on the
does it smell like the mountains?
Oh, absolutely.
You have to say that, right? So we did a good job, right?
Yes. But there's also there's a little bit of floral essence in there too, kind of like
violets,
not like a strong rosemary, like not something that's that potent. But there's something behind that white pepper that is just.
Time?
Yeah, kind of like a softer, along
I'm
that
doing
line.
good with no wine, huh?
I know you are.
Right?
Deb understands my lack of knowing. But I really do just keep sticking my nose into it because it's a beautiful aromatic wine. It really is. And then on the palate, you can tell that there's the tannin is there, but it is not. It's not.
It has a good acidity, right? Yeah.
Right. Yes, absolutely. The acidity is there, and it plays well with the tannin, and the oak regimen that I guess you're using kind of softens that and lightens that body just the right amount so that it is it's so enjoyable.
Thank you. It actually, I have to say, this wine matures in those, in regards to the oak treatment that you just mentioned, it matures in those large wooden oak vats, and whoever comes and visits the winery, it's beautiful to see, because we have an amazing historic cellar with old casks that date back to 1873, the oldest, and these barrels are still being used, and they're all hand carved, so they're huge, right? They're massive. And they really tell the story of my family, of my ancestors, of the region, of the importance of winemaking in Alto Aldige historically, and obviously those are great also for microoxygenation happening, right? And for the maturation of the wine, for sure.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm sorry, and then there's red fruit. That's kind of
dark red fruit,
right? Is where it's lovely, and I really just keep sniffing it. But I have to say,
it has a beautiful smoke. I always find like it has a great smoke on it, so it's beautiful to pair with anything that has smoke on it. Actually, we in Alto Aldige, I don't know about your parts of the world, but here in Alto Aldige, the perfect pairing with Lagrein is actually venison. In regards to very dark red meat, venison, because it has this slight sweetness to it, almost the meat, and hence it perfect pairing for us. For the classic, typical pairing of Lagrein in Alto Aldige would be with venison, yes. Okay. But really, it goes so well with so many things, like even on a great barbecue, just because it has this smoke. I love it with or with some great pizza. It's easy to pair.
It's very versatile.
I have no problem with pizza.
Right?
Very versatile.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Lagrein compared to other Italian red grape varieties. We were just talking now about, the characteristics of it. What is so unique about it compared to all the other red varietals that?
Yeah, I would say that the unique thing for me is definitely that, you have that, if you smell it, you have to, as you just said, Laurie, you had the dark red fruit spectrum, but on the palate, it's so surprisingly fresh, right? On the nose, you'd be maybe expecting kind of more bigger wine, but then on the palate, you'll be surprised how, yes, it has a structure, but it's still lively, it's still fresh, it's still easy to approach in a way, right? And hence, I think that's kind of the typicalness of the uniqueness of Lagrein, that you definitely feel there is a certain freshness that in the area in Piemonte or or obviously in Tuscany and further down you don't get.
Right. And Jim has said that Lagrein. What's
Lagrein.
Lagrein. And Sheva are fabulous grapes to taste with northern Italian food. There are more delicate, elegant wines. The Fedors are massive and impart a gentle oak influence.
Yeah, and I would agree to that, because we have certain regions here in the United States that have a very poor love affair with oak, in which you put that up, when you put that on the palate, you're tasting oak. You're not, you're not tasting what that fruit
the variety
is
itself.
Really right. And this you can taste that variety. You can taste what the wine is trying to express, and it's an enhancement versus, that oak is an enhancement to it that just adds a little dimension, a little different dimension to it. And by what you're saying, maybe taming down those strict tannins that it can get to without dominating it. It's allowing you to taste the grape, which is what I prefer.
Exactly. I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. I prefer to have the expression of the grape in the glass and not a bunch of oak.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Now you did kind of explain what the climate is like for that, but in general, like Lagrein, like if you were choosing the ideal spot, what is that climate that Lagrein likes? What is that soil
it's warm. It's the answer is it's a warm for Alto Aldige, right? Let's not Sicilian warm and not Californian warm, but for whatever Alto Aldige is warm, definitely go there, right? It definitely needs sun and warmth. Lagrein does not well on high elevation, so the highest we go is probably 350 meters, 400 say the most. So you stay low in the valley. Porphyric soils do very well with Lagrein. Generally also loamy soils and do very well. If you have a lake close by, that helps to again kind of have a more moderate climate. What else?
When you say warm, how warm does it usually get there, like in the summertime?
It gets fairly warm. So I'm not very good in Fahrenheit, but it's about, we can get in summertime, talking about July and August, up to 32, 33 degrees, yes, Celsius. So that's 100 or something.
Sounds hot.
Yeah,
32.
I'm terrible in that.
90.
90. Okay.
Yeah.
But do you get any humidity?
No, exactly. That's
you don't get
exactly
much
good point.
disease pressure.
See, I never talk about humidity because it's not a big, I mean, we're very lucky that it's fairly dry, also because of the winds that we have, right? So it's a fairly windy place. So no, disease pressure is, I mean, obviously sometimes it's there if it rains, like 2014 has been a difficult vintage for everyone. But generally it's a dry, right? Dry vintage. And that actually brings me to another topic, that there's so much talk about, vintage variation. In Alto Aldige, really, to be honest, even if, like, whenever I have to do some vertical tastings of whatever wines, talking about the vintage for us is so hard because we don't have these huge variations between one vintage and the other. So we're, generally speaking, fairly lucky to have a very constant and good weather. Then obviously, like 2014, it has been a kind of a more difficult, more rainy vintage. 2015 has been exceptionally hot. 2003 has been exceptional. But in general speaking, it's not that one vintage is so different from the other, right? I mean, a little bit, yes, but not huge, right? And in general speaking, we're very fortunate to be living in this small area where we're protected, right, by the mountains. I mean, all the bad weather that comes from the north doesn't get to Alto Aldige because we have the mountains, right? So it rains in Austria, but as soon as it crosses the natural border, which are the mountains, it's sun. So where we are vulnerable, the bad weather always comes from the south, right? We get the snow from the south, and we get rain. Heavy rain only comes from the south, right? That's where we're open. Big storms from the north never make it through. Hardly ever make it through, right?
So how does the altitude impact the flavor? So if it was to grow, Lagrein was supposed to grow on the valley floor, how would that flavor be different?
Yeah, the thing is that it wouldn't really ripen enough, and that you're left with a wine with a Lagrein that is green, right? You have green notes in it, right? Well, it will ripe at some point, but you'll have always these very astringent tannins, right? And would certainly not thrive well. So the unique thing of Alto Aldige is really that we're such a small region, and actually as a region, about 98% of the region is classified as DOC system, with the DOC, which is the highest denomination that we have in Alto Aldige. You know that in Italy there is also the DOCG, but not in Alto Aldige. So the highest we have is DOC, and 98% of our vineyards are all classified as DOC. So we have very high quality in what we have. And land is very scarce but very versatile. So we have a lot of different microclimates that we find, and hence we plant a lot of different varieties. Like as a region, we're up to almost, I think, 30 varieties that are being grown in the region. And why? I mean, these are all parcels. Within an hour from where we are, we see so many different microclimates. And the unique thing is also that we can go in altitude, right? And vineyards are being planted in Alto Aldige from, say, 250 meters up to almost 1,000 meters. So that's like 3,000 feet, right? The highest we have. And so very versatile microclimates that you find. And hence we can plant many, many different varieties. But Lagrein, you would choose a lower elevation vineyard for sure. You go high up with Pinot Bianco, for example. Pinot Grigio is another variety that wants more kind of the lower elevation, but Pinot Bianco, Pinot Noir do very well on high elevation vineyards.
And how do you see climate change affecting you?
Yeah.
And specifically the impact that it may have on Lagrein?
Obviously, I mean, the climate has been changing, and we see that. And if you talk to my generation, ask in general, when does vintage start? I would say very late of August. Ask my parents, and they would answer middle of September, right? So we're talking about 2 weeks of difference, right? So definitely we see that. But then there are always exceptions, right? We have colder vintages and vintages being shifted further down. But in general speaking, yes, we do see that it gets warmer. And yes, we do see that wines tend to have a little bit more alcohol. But we're still lucky enough to be so far north that, yes, it gets warmer. We have a little bit more alcohol, but it's not threatening like in other parts of the world where it is already so warm that half a degree more or less does make a difference, right? I think we're not at this point, it's not as drastic. And we can go on high elevation. So as I said, our highest vineyard that we have is on 3,000 feet. So that is very high. It's a great vineyard. Is it the perfect vineyard for now? Probably not, because it's too high, I would say, right? So it's something that we do for the future. Yeah, so definitely as a vineyard, you obviously, you see all these things and you have a lot of projects to kind of understand which direction is it going, right? And that's also the beautiful part of I guess of being a wine producer, the vintner.
What do you look for when you're harvesting Lagrein? What do you look for in the grape? What's the bricks and everything else?
Yeah, bricks. I remember it's Balma. It's like we're in. Hang on, Balma. It's like 13.5. Is that correct? We use how do you say a different Italian measurement,
right?
Close to Neuburg, so that would be around 20 babo, something like that.
Okay.
But obviously the most important thing in Lagrein, harvesting Lagrein, is the phenolic ripeness, and you get that by tasting. And you look obviously at your bricks or the Balma or babo, what we say. But the key thing is really tasting, and you taste and you see that the pipe kind of gets ripe, right? You kind of bite on it and you chew on it to understand really the tannin structure that you might get in your final wine. And I think that's so much more important than just the bricks or the bomb or whatever we use as a measurement, because the phenolic ripeness is the tricky part of Lagrein.
Okay.
So it's 1.8 degrees bricks is 1 pound. So people can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not very good in maths, I guess.
Yeah, that's what calculators are for, right? And then you did talk about how like a harvest, was with the climate change, it is moving up a little bit depending on, whatever. But in terms of Lagrein itself, does it tend to bud break early? Does it ripen early? Where is it in the scheme of your vintage?
In scheme of our vintage in general, not in terms of climate change. No, in general, you say. In general, Lagrein is being harvested fairly obviously after the whites, but in regards of our red wines, it's one of the almost first that come in, I would say. So in average vintages, it's interesting because even if you go into the vineyards and you see kind of, it has this kind of it's such a contradiction, this variety, because you taste the vineyard and you see actually it has a very soft skin. And it's you would think it has very thick skins, but actually has a very soft skin, right? Okay. Considering the tannin structure that you have. So it's really a contradiction to what you generally learn in your books, right? So we harvest, generally speaking, I would say around it depends. I mean, mid-September, I would say. So once basically almost when the whites are finished, then you start almost together Schiava and Lagrein kind of, Pinot Noir, obviously Pinot Noir would be first, generally speaking, but because Pinot Noir nowadays tends to be on higher elevation vineyards, sometimes Lagrein comes before the Pinot Noir comes in, because Pinot Noir tends to be grown now on higher elevation. But if Lagrein and Pinot Noir were planted in the same elevation, then Pinot Noir would come first, yes.
Okay.
Now you talked about how the winds help the vines, the Lagrein, and that, but once you get it into the winery, is there anything that is a concern in the winery? Like, does it is it prone to oxidation? Is it prone, what? Is there something you need to be concerned with?
We need to be concerned in general. No, it's actually Lagrein is. We love making Lagrein. It's not it's not like a Schiava that is very tricky and very reductive and very. Lagrein is a variety that it's the classic red wine regimen. How you say production that you would do. Okay. Yeah, so it's not too difficult to handle Lagrein compared to say Pinot Noir or Schiava that we plant. Yes, okay. or Cabernet where you have to wait for so long and kind of cross your fingers that the weather holds because it ripens so late. So Lagrein is a, how do you say, a trustful and a variety. Yes.
We do have a question from Evelyn. She said she sees that you exhibited at Vin Italy and Pro Wine this year. She wants to know if the attendance, if the attendance levels were up to pre-pandemic levels.
Yeah, definitely for Vin Italy, yes. Vin Italy was a really beautiful trade show, fantastic. We loved it. We saw people from all over the world. Pro Wine was also very good. Probably not as busy as pre-COVID, I would say. Okay. But in Italy, for sure, yes. I mean, okay. Yes, for sure. It was great. Yes, we loved it.
What is the best way to enjoy this wine? Is it better to drink it young? Is it a good aging wine? Mm-hmm. And does it depend on how it's produced, whether it will age better than others?
Yes, to the last thing that you said, yes.
Okay.
So always, whenever you buy a Lagrein, look on your label and look what it says. Because in general speaking, not just about our estate, but in general in Alto Aldige, if you see a wine labeled Lagrein, like the one that you're, Laura, that you're having, like if it's labeled just Lagrein, Alto Aldige DOC, that's the denomination, then you're most likely, it's a wine that is generally made to be drunk young, right? And it's kind of more fresh, and it's a wine that is approachable and is here to be drunk now. Right, so you look for kind of more recent vintages and don't go too far back unless you really want to see how the variety evolves. But in general, those are wines that are being made to be drunk young. But if you see Lagrein Reserva on your label, right, Reserva, then it means that the wine has been aged for at least 2 years somewhere and somehow, right? You have to age it for 2 years at least. And hence, obviously, those wines are wines that are made to age, right? And so these wines, yes, look for back vintages because Lagrein has the tannin structure and has the acidity, so it's definitely a wine that holds well and does age very well. Yeah.
How long do you think it would age for?
Lagrein? Yeah. If you look for a Reserva style, it can age very well. At our estate, we have some of the oldest vintages of kind of early 90s, and they are beautiful. I mean, it has the tannins. It has the acidity, so two very important components really to ripen, and so they can age very well. Yes.
Awesome.
Great. Good to know.
Yeah. And we've already covered climate and soil. So Deb.
So what's the future of Elena Walch Winery?
What's the future? Well, I feel like what my mom introduced many years ago, being this pioneer in the high quality revolution that our region went through, and with her belief of really making wines that are a true reflection of a single side of our area and of our family in the end, is something that my sister and myself, we definitely want to continue, perhaps even in a more strict way with new labor requirements that kind of prove that even stronger that we are producing wines from a single site, for example, working very sustainably and basically giving the soil back, what we take out, we need and want to give back. So really the future is to continue producing very high-end wines and produce wines that are really the true reflection of who we are and what we do and definitely where we are. And continue the legacy that my ancestors have done for many years already.
And Lynn just said that she just had your 2012 and it was lovely.
Oh, beautiful. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then, so piggybacking on Deb's question, that's the future of Elena Walch. What do you see as the future of Lagrein?
I think Lagrein is a variety that it's a native grape variety, it's an indigenous grape variety of Alto Aldige, but especially in days like this where people love kind of these native, indigenous, different grape varieties, different than the classic international varieties like Merlot, like Cabernet Sauvignon. So for us, it's actually easier to sell a Lagrein in the US than to sell a Cabernet Sauvignon in the US, right? And hence, I think like there is, especially in times like these, there is more and more interest in native grape varieties overall. So I think Alto Aldige will continue producing this neat little grape variety that we have, and really show the world this small variety. Obviously, it will remain a niche product, but that's fine because we're such a small region, that we wouldn't have enough anyway. But I think it will have, it will remain a niche variety, but should always hopefully have a place in wine lists around the world.
What 3 facts would you like people to remember? Because we're starting to wind down here. We're almost done. What would you like for them to remember about Lagrein?
About Lagrein, 3 things. Okay. It's very versatile. Remember to drink Alto Adige, so northernmost wine growing region in Italy. And it's just, let me think, last thing, drink it. And if you drink it, kind of be thinking of this region that is surrounded by the mountains in the middle of the Dolomites. We have very small vineyards available only, and it's warm during the day, it's cold at night, so it's this tension that you hopefully see also in the wine.
Wonderful.
So Mike, I'm Googling here because Michael obviously knows more about Paso than I do, which is where I live. But anyway, he was asking a question, which I'm trying to see how they describe it. We do have Lagrein here in Paso. So
yeah.
Have you ever visited Paso?
I actually have been in the area, and I have tasted actually, hang on, now you got me, I should have looked it up. I tasted some Lagrein that was planted in California. I once had it in from upstate New York, from the Channing daughters.
Channing daughters, that's Long Island. That's
Long Island. They planted it.
Oh, wow.
And also in
now that's
California,
interesting because that's cold.
That's exactly. So I was, yes, no comment on this. And but then hang on, it is also in California. I should have looked it up. There are a couple of producers in California that do it. The ones that do some Italian. I should look it up.
So here in Paso, which is the Central Coast, right smack dab in Central California, there is a winery called Pelletier Winery, and she specializes in Italian grape varieties. And so hers is $75.
Oh, there you go.
And the description says the incredibly rich and complex layers of black raspberry, anise, and dark plum on the palate met with silky lingering tannins on the finish.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, and
I know also in Australia there is a little bit planted, like in the Adelaide Hills. I know they do plant some Lagrein.
Lynn said Jeff Runquist Wines in Amador County has Lagrein, and Karen says Jacuzzi in Sonoma bottles and sells it.
Oh,
too.
Jacuzzi is all Italian.
Yes, exactly. I think I heard about that one. Yes.
Right. And their recommendation for food pairing is grilled pork chops, flank steak, and prosciutto.
There we go.
Well, they just never had venison.
Right. Yes, I will let her know.
Yeah, right.
If you know her, I will let her know that she needs to add venison to her website.
But is that something that you eat or not so much? Is it?
Well,
venison?
Where I am,
venison,
a lot
not
of
so
people
much,
do.
right?
Where I am,
Yeah.
a lot of people do eat venison because they physically go out and hunt it.
There we go. Yeah.
Around Thanksgiving, mid to end November. Mid-November is bow season, and then around our Thanksgiving is gun season for deer. So when people,
so kind of, but it's not something a classic dish on the restaurants.
Right. It's not something you see on the menu like you see a hamburger.
Yeah.
Or a steak, and it's usually a fall dish actually as well.
Right.
Like you'll see it more on the menu. You'll see it more on the menu in the fall.
In the fall. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Interesting. There we go. See?
Yes. All right. And then, so just where can people find you? Where can people find, you travel all over the place, because we've actually met once in New York City at the Italian.
It was,
yes.
Maybe.
Years
Yeah,
and years and years.
Were you
ago.
there this year?
Yes.
Were you there this year?
Yeah.
I personally wasn't, but we were there.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll have to look for you next time.
You should. Yeah. No, it's a great event. Yeah.
Next
One of our employees was there. Yes. It was a great show. And where can you find us? Obviously, visit us in Tramin. As I said, it's a beautiful small little village. You're surrounded by the mountains. It's really gorgeous. But if we have a beautiful cellar door, so tasting room, and we have a small sort of restaurant with local produce, only cold cuts, and it's in the middle of the vineyard, so it's gorgeous here if you wanted to visit. We offer also vineyard tours and winery tours, but if that's too far, we do participate at some wine shows around the US, for example the Gambaro Rosso or the James Suckling events, and then our wines are distributed throughout the states, and so look for us in fine retail or in kind of restaurants.
And where can they find you online?
I think it's wine.com. They should.
No. Where can they find out about you
it's Elena Walch.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We're elenawalch.com, or we're also on Facebook and obviously also on Instagram with Elena Walch.
Good.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Anything that Debbie or I did not cover about Elena Walch or Lagrein?
I think you covered quite a bit. So on top of my head, I can't think of anything. I hope I gave you a nice overview of what we do, of what my family does, and of what the region does. So I hope I was able to give you kind of all these insights. So nothing on my end.
It was wonderful. I actually learned so much. It was
Thank you so much.
Fabulous.
Thank
it
you
really
so much,
was.
Debbie.
And just so you know, Karoline, we've had 8 people on from the get-go.
Oh.
So, and as we told you earlier, it's more of an after effect of, but the people have, if you're looking at the chat, the people have been active in the chat, sharing links about your winery and just sharing who else does Lagrein and how to get to you. So
fantastic. Thank you.
The chat was doing so. We want to thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and sharing your wine. So I just wrote in the chat, I'm going to go to Pelletier and Hope Family Wines with your bottle and go let them taste your wine. So I can do a side by side of your wine with theirs. So
beautiful.
I will do that. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts then.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it too. And I was just out on Long Island too, wine tasting.
Oh, there you go.
So, but I'm not going back.
Somebody told me they don't do it anymore. I saw it several years ago, but have a look. Yeah, I definitely tasted it once several years ago.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your time, sharing your wine, sharing the history. It was exceptional. The wine, I adore it. So I did save a little bit so I can do my little slancha at the end, even though nobody else is drinking. I'm the earliest in the day and I'm drinking.
I'm looking forward to getting the bottle. So once my daughter comes down.
Yeah. So I love when I have a reason to drink at 10 a.m. So thank you so much. And have a great day. Have a great week. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Cheers. Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.
This has been another episode of Exploring the Wine Glass. Thanks for listening. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like me to discuss, please reach out on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as Exploring the Wine Glass. I am also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoyt-Budd. Of course, you can always email me at exploringthewineglass@gmail.com. and sign up for my newsletter at exploringthewineglass.com. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find me more easily. And most importantly, tell your wine-loving friends, because if you like the podcast, they will too. Podcast music is Wine by Kevins. Until next week, slancha.
Give me the red wine. Give me the white wine. Give me the sweet wine. Give me the wine. Give me the wine. No, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. Never let you go. Oh, oh. No, no, no. Never let you go. Oh, no, no, no. I want a nice glass right now. I'm on keeping for my 10,000 hotel, yo. There is always time for a good glass of wine. No, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. Never let you go. Oh, oh. No, no, no. Never let you go. Oh, oh. I want a nice glass right now.